Hello. Yes, we're live. Hello, hello, hello. Looks like a couple of people on now. Um, how are you? My eye looks like 4. How is everyone this evening? Let me know where you're from. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so. And yes, trying to get this puppy growing. Slow going. I think things like this grew faster in the pandemic, which my Facebook page really did grow rapidly in the pandemic. So who's on? I see 3 people. There was 4. Oh, there is 4. I can't see who you are. Not from here. I don't know if I could say from YouTube, but anyway. Hi, Rhonda. How's it going? Hello, Mary Jo. Yes, I know it was Rhonda. I can see your name is Rhonda on YouTube, and MJ is MJJ. MJJ 101. What a day, Rhonda says. Oh my goodness, what's going on in Georgia? Rhonda's my Georgia peach, so my Georgia friend. So I need to talk with a Southern Belle accent. I just love her accent. I'm from Canada, Carleton Place, Ontario, Canada, which is a small town just outside of our nation's capital, which is Ottawa, not Toronto. Hi, Pearl. And Brooklyn. Hi. Yes. So it's just the usual suspects on this evening. Anybody new? Anybody new finding my YouTube page? I know there's a lot of other paint tutorials out there, but hopefully I'm getting into search engines, which would be really nice. And yeah, so let's see. This painting, I'm getting to them all. People are like, are you going to do this one? Are you going to do this one? I know they all disappeared off Facebook, and I'm going to eventually get to them all. However, I do have a huge library of paintings that I've done. They're all my originals. I don't use other people's. Sometimes I use other people's ideas. Not ideas, but I might, look at not other people's ideas particularly, but I'll look at some different pictures and think, okay, people seem to really like this, and because sometimes my taste isn't always what everyone else likes. Like I'll look on Pinterest and see how many, what kinds of things people really like, because I try to do things that are outside of my purview kind of thing. My paintings are always different for me. But this one was done a long, long time ago, and it was inspired by a Canadian artist called Thomas Kincaid. He's from an area south of me, along the Lake Ontario kind of side of things in Canada. It's not one of his paintings by any means. It was just, I call it Kincaid-ish. It just sort of, like, he does a lot of folk art, but mine is more impressionism than his. It was sort of like this little folksy autumn trail. So, and usually he has little houses and huts in his, little cottages in his, and I also try to simplify things to make it easy for beginners. So I do, so this one is kind of cool. And we're going to do it with just the primary colors. So just blue, yellow, and red. That's it, that's all. And then, of course, white and black. Don't put black on your palette right now. You don't want to touch it. So black is more for the birch tree because it's actually like a chemical in the birch that creates that black. So it does look more black. And there is some black in the trail, and then some black in the lantern. Now the lantern, when I originally did it, I actually put it looks sort of yellowish in there, so I put glow in the dark paint, phosphorescent paint. If you do invest in phosphorescent paint, invest in the good stuff. And you can only use it at the very end. I'm not using it today because not everybody has it. And you have to put it on thick. And the second so you can see how thick my painting is. And this actually will glow in the dark. If I turn out the lights in here, it doesn't really work very well just because my computer still has light on it and it's feeding into it. But it'll go for about 20 to 30 minutes after the lights are turned out, but it needs to recharge. A phosphorescent paint needs to recharge, and this one supposedly will last 15, 20 years. I haven't seen a lifespan on it. This is probably about 8 or 9 years old, this painting, and it still glows really well. Sometimes they scare me because I forget. I turn out the lights. It's that. Yeah, so it'll glow instantly the second it's on, so you can check where you've got it. You don't have to wait for it to dry. But we're not doing that today. Just doing the regular old painting. So like I said, you need 3 primary colors, black and white. Not always do you need black in a painting. And then just my usual 1-inch flat, which was supposedly flat. Now it's gone into like a filbert. Filberts have a rounded end. I don't know where my filbert went. Filberts have a rounded end, but it's just getting, see, it's so old that, yeah, so it's so old that it's gone into a round brush. I think I used it the entire time during the pandemic. But it was a flat brush, meaning it's got a flat end and it's squared off and also flat like that. It's crimped flatly. You could use a round brush, like a rough bristled round brush to do the leaves, but I find people tend to be too exact with that, and then they end up with all of this exactly the same brush stroke kind of thing. It's a dab more than anything, but the same thing. So anyway, much ado about nothing. Let's get into it. And I am going to take every once in a while, if I miss a comment, because I'm not looking at you guys, I'm looking at the painting, I will try and get to it. So if you have a question, just, and probably I'll be answering it, probably in the next few minutes anyway, but I will check for, I'll try to remember to take breaks to check back. I don't have some YouTubers, when they have a big audience, they have somebody monitoring the chat, and often like my other buddies, my seasoned Paint with Janet artists will usually end up answering before me sometimes. So that's always good. Yes. So let's get this set up. I'm going to trade spots here. Bring that close to me and move, pivot, get everything set up a bit better here. And there we go. And I think that's good. Okay, so just 2 brushes, nothing fancy, no fine work. This is truly Impressionism, where the eye does the blending. If you get close into these, like, not every dab is a leaf. And I find when people take a round brush, like a round coarse brush like this, like a coarse brush sometimes, then they literally do this, and it ends up to be like all the same, and it's not going to blend very well. Now I did in this original, I used several shades of yellow and orange and several shades of red and burgundy, but you don't need that. And I'm going to show you how to build up that color. Okay. Online, it's easier if I just stick with the basics. So everybody can just get the basics, because not every people are so worried. It's like, well, what color are you using exactly? This one's just a bright red, and I'm using phthalo blue. I think I used ultramarine last week, and I don't want my phthalo blue to get jealous. So phthalo blue is kind of like a teal color. Phthalo after the Latin name phthalo. Ultramarine is actually done a long time ago as sort of the color of the sea kind of thing, and it's made from lapis lazuli, the original pigment. So my things here. And I don't need a lot of blue. Blue's a very dark color. It's, if you take color theory with me, you'll know it has the highest frequency wave, so it is invading everywhere. So the tiniest bit of blue will go really, really dark. Okay. If you have blue eyes, you actually have no pigment. It's blue doing a takeover in your eyes, actually called Rayleigh scattering. So color is very scientific, very, very much about physics and light, refraction, reflection. And these are acrylic paints, as I said in the outline. You could possibly do this in watercolor, but you would have to use some kind of a blocking agent to get the birch trees. I just really like the birch trees standing out against that dark background. It sort of gives the trail some life. So I don't use blocking agents in my watercolors when I'm teaching beginners. So I've got some nice red here, and I am actually going to use quite a bit of red. Okay. And then yellow, I'm going to use a lot of yellow. It doesn't look like there's a lot of yellow in here. However, yellow gets absorbed by the other colors really fast, and I want that to stand out. So you're probably going to have yellow. You're going to have to refill your yellow frequently as we get closer to the foreground. As leaves come out in the foreground, you're going to want to get that yellow, back on there. So I'm going to keep my yellow out, but I'm probably going to refill it. So that's quite a lot of yellow comparatively to my little bit of blue. And this is thick, heavy, heavy paint. If you're painting Impressionist style and you want the paint to stand out off your paper or your canvas, sorry, you really want to use high viscosity. See how it's really standing out? High viscosity paint to get that nice texture. And it does not crack. This paint is specifically made in Canada, actually around Montreal area. And it's equivalent that you can get all over the world is probably by PBO. It's French. And there are some other brands in the States. I'm not 100% sure. But check in with me if you want. I'm always, you can always email me or message me. And and I'll send you whatever information I can. And of course we need white. We always need white. Okay, I need some white going on here. And so here we go. I don't need a lot of white right now. I'm not doing those birch trees right now. We start with the background always with acrylic, except for, oh my gosh, maybe about 2 or 3 paintings that I have, I do not start with the background in acrylic. But typically always 100%, except when it's not. Because sometimes it's not. So now halfway. So depending on where your perspective is, like if we were, say this trail, we're going up a little incline and we were down low, then of course our horizon line will be about halfway. And I really want that trail to stand out, so my horizon line is going to be halfway. Typical horizon line is a third of the way up. Doesn't matter what size your canvas is, it's fractions. Okay, so math and science. Fractions. So halfway point here, we're going to get a nice sky in. I kind of liked a little bit of a violet feel to the sky. So I put in some blue and then a little bit of purple or red. And I can't remember if I actually used purple or red because, and you don't have to have it mixing perfectly. So that's why I apply it separately. So you can see how it's just kind of sitting on top there. Okay, but I'm using red because primary color. Purple is a secondary, so is orange. And then, but I find when you're doing a secondary color, it's really nice to use the colors on either side of it. So for my pumpkins, even for these pumpkins, I would rarely use orange. I would use red and yellow, just so I get lots of different tones in the pumpkins. And they're kind of squishy old pumpkins because it's getting late in the fall. They're just kind of sitting along the trail, waiting for the deer to eat them. Okay, so back and forth, a straight back and forth brush stroke. And I am going to put a little bit of paint on there first. Then I'm going to wet my brush a little bit and let it slide across. Okay, so I am going to use the tiniest bit of blue, tiny bit of blue. It's very little. And I'm going to start, I want the darkest part of my sky at the top. Okay, because when the sun sets, the lightest part is at the bottom. Okay, so you see, I'm going to lower this down so you can really see the top. So you see I've got this paint on there. And remember I said that blue is really dark. I'm just going to get a little bit on, and I'm going to take a little bit more and, whoops, get that on. And then just empty my brush down a little bit. Okay, so all of that heavier pigment is at the top. Okay, and even on a bright sunny day when you have different values of blue in the sky, you have darker near the top and then lighter near here, even if the sun is up in the sky. But right now, because the sun has set, so there's still a lingering light here, so we have it dark near the very top. Start at the very top. A lot of people, when I say the top, they leave an inch and do here. At the very top means a very, like right here at the top of your canvas, right there. Okay, and then a tiny bit of red. It's going to give us that nice purple feel. And I apply them separately because then I want the purple to kind of come out of that I want the purple to kind of get different tones of purple throughout. That's also why I do it separately. Okay, then I'm going to take some white without wetting my brush yet. I'm going to take a little bit of white because I don't want all the sky really dark up here. I do want it, have some nice streaks of white. Then I am going to take a little bit of water to thin that paint. But first I put it on dry. So I have a little bit of white on there. I'm going to put a little bit more white further down. Okay, now the white's going to give it some substance. And now I'm going to take the tiniest bit of water, meaning breaking the surface tension of the water. That's it, called the meniscus. Also the thing that I blew in my knee. And then I'm going to start at the top with that little bit of water. It's going to blend beautifully. I think I used ultramarine blue in that first one. That's why it went so dark. And probably purple. And you see, now that once there's paint in the sky, you move on. So you don't overblend. So you see those nice streaks. See those beautiful streaks? Okay, if I were to overblend, I would just get the flat color. And because my brush is damp, all of that is coming right down to the bottom. So I can get pretty much my entire canvas covered. And I'm going back and forth, doing these little back and forth brush strokes. I want a hint more purple down here. So all I'm going to do is take the tiniest bit of red, and go across and bring and empty my brush up there. Now I'm going to take more white because I want it lighter here. I'm going to take white, and I am done wetting my brush, completely done wetting my brush. Okay, so I'm just going to get some nice white on there. And then as I go up, I do want a little bit darker near the top. So I'm going to be super careful with blue. I'm going to start again at the top, just kind of laying that blue on top of my paint, on top of the paint that's already there, instead of kind of digging down with my brush. I'm not going to put a lot of pressure on. I'm going to go back the opposite way. I might even take a little bit more red. Red's going to make it darker too. Red's a little bit darker because I'm done with white. There we go. I'm not going to worry about the edges so much, just because I'm going to have lots of tree foliage and everything else in there. And I might do a little bit, maybe there's little bits of clouds. You could take a tiny bit of, like right here where you might see some clouds, but usually they're kind of stratus clouds and they're going straight across if you want to lighten your sky up a bit more. But you don't have to. See, I barely used any white, but we are going to have a lot of foliage in here. Okay. Now we're going to plan out our plan of attack here and how we're going to do this trail. Instead of trying to do the trail right now, what we're going to do, and we're still going to do fractions, okay? We're going to do some fractions. We are going to dot out kind of this area. From this corner, we're leaving these foliage. The foliage you see in the front is not what we're doing. We're doing the very background foliage. You see how you can see some of the sky in between. Now, if I can get that to autofocus, in between the leaves. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of dot out here and here. So we don't have to do the trail just yet. What we are doing is kind of like, the trail will come out of negative space. So like we're kind of doing a negative space thing, because I don't want any black or too much white on there, because it will affect stuff. So the way we're going to work it out is we're going to use yellow. Don't clean your brush. Yellow is the lightest color for the fall. And yellow, there's a lot of yellow and green. There's a lot of very dark green in here, but we are going to get it dark later. But yellow right now, okay? So I'm going to pick up quite a lot of, it doesn't matter, I can use quite a lot of yellow, because it's going to, the minute you put other colors on top of yellow, it's going to go darker, okay? So I want the beginning of my trail. So what we're doing is this. So I'm going to, with my pretend pencil here, I'm going to draw like straight down here and then like that. Okay. So this is, I'm going to get a piece of, so this is the shape that we're going to do. I'll draw it with just on a scrap piece of paper here. There's our horizon. And this is the halfway point. So this is the halfway point, and this is a quarter of the way point. This is the halfway point. This is a quarter. So a quarter or 3/4, okay? So I am going to go here to here with my yellow, okay? This is a quarter of the way or 3/4 of the way, however you're measuring. This is the halfway point, right? That's the halfway. And then we're going to do, then we're going to come down. We're going to bulb out. And then we're going to come down at least to the halfway point here. So we're going to go bulb out to at least like roughly a quarter of the way. Roughly. And bulbing out halfway. Okay, so this is half. This is 3/4. and this is 1/4. Okay, so roughly like we're bulbing out to there and then back here, not back to here, back to here. Okay, easy peasy. Just basic fractions. 1/4, half. We're not even doing thirds. Thirds is harder. Okay, halfway, and then another half, right? And then another half. Easy peasy. I'm gonna do a little bit like, I'm gonna go a little darker. I'm gonna use some red just for you. Just for you, special. So you can see it really well. You use yellow. Okay? Because yellow is the lightest. It's easy to cover. And then we're gonna dot. We're still dotting out. I'm using yellow, and there's a little bit of red on there. From the corner, I'm dotting out. Just dots. That's all you need. Don't go over the dots. Just in yellow. Just in yellow. What color are you using? Yellow. Bella, Bella, Bella. You'll probably clean it and then... But look at how pretty this is without washing your brush. Okay. Now, more yellow. Oops. Oh, I was supposed to come to this part. Oh my gosh, you guys got me all confused. Okay. Right down to there. Okay, right down to there. Then this one goes to here. So it goes to like the 1/4 or 3/4. Okay. Past the halfway point. Past the halfway point. It was Bella that got me confused. And then this bulbs out to here. Curve. You can curve if you have to, or you can dot. Okay. Nice. You can have thick paint. Oh, look. Oh my gosh. Look at how messy that is, Bella. I know Bella. I can give her a heart attack. Okay. She paints with me in person. And she likes watercolors because sometimes I'll let her wash her brush. Then we're going to do just here, like about an inch or two up. Okay. Inch or two up. We're going to go in way over to the halfway point. I knew there was, see, way over to the halfway point. And then up. And that's going to meet. And that's where our trail is going to go. And it goes to a point at the back. Okay? So you can lose the point with all the leaf and foliage that we have in our background, but that is our pathway. It gets wider at the front. This is basic perspective, wide at the front and narrow at the back, almost to a point. Half the time you can't see the end of the pathway because we are kind of looking up a hill, you know, so that's fine. So what we're going to do now in this area here and lower down, what I want to do is tap in some deeper blues. Just a little bit of deeper blue and red. Okay, I want to kind of get some burgundy, also some yellows. So in here, I want to go into, I have yellow on my brush already. I'm going to pick up some blue. And right just a little bit here, I'm going to work on this side. Right here, see, I'm just going to tap in some blue near the horizon. Near the horizon. Don't go straight across. We're going up and down and across. I know, if Liz is watching, we're not doing this, all these dots straight across, okay? We're just doing this. Notice it's kind of getting green. We have all these beautiful colors. Then I'm going to take red. I want to go a little bit more burgundy. So I'm taking red, especially close to that horizon. So you see it's kind of going into a point. It's kind of following that at our horizon we get like a bow tie at the very end, but we're not seeing the other part. Okay? And we're getting these lovely reds in here. And notice my brush is kind of doing this with this heavy brush. I'm literally like the end is touching. Okay. I'm just tapping in this this paint, tapping in this dark paint. And then I want to go into a bit more of the, what am I saying? I want to get some of that dark off here at the bottom. Although it's not too dark because I had yellow on there before. Okay, so I want to go, now I'm going into my red, getting a bit more red. I'm going to go up here more. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the corner of my brush. I'll show you from the side. Even though mine's kind of rounded out, it's from the side. You're just going to hold your brush further down here, no death grips. Let it kind of graze the canvas. No pressure. It's not this. Okay, so it's not that. You're not selecting where you dab. You're just kind of rocking your brush around and you're picking up more paint regularly. Okay, so I have, oops, got a big gob of yellow on me there. So I'm just going to go above here. Notice not everything's filled in down here. Don't worry. And I'm just going to get some red kind of grazing that area. Picking up more red. Picking up more red. See, I'm just kind of letting it float. Bringing some down into here. Bringing some reds down into there. Then I'm going to empty off that dark color. Just going to slap it. Okay. Then now as I go up, I'm going to use more and more yellow. Straight up yellow. Okay. And it's going to blend with all of these colors underneath. So you're going to get brownish yellows, orangey yellows. I'm going to start down here so that my brush is kind of loaded, and I'm going to go up and down kind of like that. Just gently letting some of that yellow sit. So I see sit on top a little bit, picking up more yellow on the corner, still using that corner of my brush. Sometimes I'm turning my brush this way, so I get a little different feel for it. I'm getting some golds, I'm getting yellow ochres, I'm getting browns, I'm getting oranges because of that beautiful red that I had on there. And a little bit of that blue kind of gives me some brownish colors. Now this is kind of going too brown, so I'm going to empty it down here. I can even empty it down here. Empty that brush down. Don't waste your paint, because see how it's going into like that nice brownish color? I didn't want to do it over on the edge because I keep sticking my finger in it. Okay, now we're going to grab more yellow and a little bit of red at a time. So kind of like red and yellow double load. Doesn't matter which one you pick up first. I know Rhonda's going to say that. Which one did you pick up first? It doesn't matter. The next load I might pick up. And see, I'm just going to let that sit on the surface. Okay. I'm going to pick up more. I'm not putting any pressure on my brush. My brush is only kind of touching the paint that was there. It's not touching. Now I'm going to pick up just yellow and kind of let that kind of move. I want to mess up that line. I don't want that perfect line that I had. I don't want that perfect line at all. Okay. Like, remember we did the dabbies? I want it to be messy. So you see how we've got these beautiful tones of color in there. We've got every color of fall. Every color of fall in there. Absolutely stunning. Okay. We can even bring some of that yellow. See, I told you you'd be using a lot of yellow. Bring some of that yellow through here, but it's very dense at the horizon, especially in the forest, because we can't see our light through. Okay. We've got a lot of gold near the sky. And right up to that trail, I'm going to bring some more yellow in there. Bring some more yellow in there. Dabbing into that trail, right at the trail, because we're going to go over that trail with black and white a little bit. I'm going to take the tiniest bit of blue, Go right up to that trail. Mother Nature doesn't leave a space of yellow between the trail, and the trail is kind of gravelly. I think it's a gravel trail. That's just what I think, because it has a lantern on it. And we're just kind of flopping our brush around. We're getting these deep greens. Now I'm using a little bit of blue and yellow, getting these deep fall greens. Sometimes you get those deep greens that are almost brown, tiny bit of red, just to kind of muck it up, because we don't want a sort of Kelly green by any means. We want these rich golds. And you see how getting all of these beautiful tones through here. Leave those. Don't muck it up again. Like, don't keep going. Don't keep going and going and going. Up here, I'm going to leave that area because maybe there's only one tree here. I want to see more sky through. After, I'm going to just kind of leave it till a little bit after. Not too much after. But because now I've got all these dark tones on here, I'm going to do this side. And I'm going right up to that trail. Okay, right up to the trail, and I'm using a little bit of blue, still kind of using the corner of my brush, no death grips, going right up to that trail, grabbing my yellow, and see, my yellow is getting really dirty, which is even better. Everything's blending beautifully on here. This is the concept of Impressionism. The eye does the blending. This is exactly how Monet painted. Got all these beautiful fall colors over here. Leaves are falling. The background is going dark green, brown, and leaves are falling on top. And we can go right to that trail. More reds near the top. And then we're going to take a little bit of kind of yellow, and maybe there's some shrubs here. So this is the end of our trail. On the left side, we're going to have our post here. We're doing that in black, but I want to get some lighter. Maybe these are just some, maybe this is the dense forest, which is why we kind of have the fence there. It's a little hint of a fence. And I am just going to gently start touching over here into the sky with the same brush, and gently start using some red a bit, maybe some red, and maybe a little bit more of my straight up yellow. You don't have to have red and yellow always together. And I'm just going to sort of bulb out a little bit and then come back in. Because maybe this is just one tree. And I'm just sort of flopping my brush around. And maybe some of those bits come off. See how I've got some bits coming off into the sky. You can't always see a tree trunk there, but you can see the tree through the trunk. And I'm just going to get some brighter yellow over here. Doesn't always have to be orangey red. Maybe I want that, this one's more orangey red, but I've got some red down here. So I can just pull that down a little, pull it by dabbing. I don't always have to have exactly the same thing as over here. And I'm just going to sort of block out that bit, but I can get my trail back easily, okay? It was just a bit too bright yellow right there for the back of the trail. Typically at the back, it's not so bright, okay? I just mucked it up a bit. Okay, and that's it. So easy. And again, try not to have exact lines. See how some of these lines are messy? Like this looks like a lion coming out and roaring out. So, have them kind of, have different shapes coming out so it's not just that perfect line. Remember I said mess up that perfect line. Now we're done with that big brush. This is easy. And we've got all these beautiful colors of fall. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. Already, it's absolutely gorgeous. All these beautiful colors of fall. And we don't need white yet because it's quite dark. The sun just kind of went down. We don't need a lot of white added in yet, but we will add some white later, which is easy peasy too. Okay, and we're also going to add a bit more yellow. But here at the bottom of the trail, we don't see as much brightness. And you see, we've got this beautiful trail. You don't have to have that perfect rim on your trail. If anybody has a perfect rim on their trail, they're doing it wrong. Yes, Paint with Janet, because it's a gravelly trail, the weeds and everything come, and the leaves come right up to the trail. And yeah, so that's it. Easy peasy. Easy peasy. Okay. Now we're going to do the little fence. Okay. So we're going to do this little fence, and you're going to find that your paint's going to have a hard time sticking here. Okay. And we're switching over to this brush. So put your brush in water. Keep your nice, good brush in water so it doesn't dry out. And so we're going to do this idea of a fence back here. Don't be perfect about it. It's an old fence. It's an old trail. It's just the idea. You're going to pick up some of those colors back there, and see how it narrows up here, and you can barely see it. Okay? The more you fuss over this, the worse for where you're going to be. And I'll get a scrap piece of paper here and show you. How we're going to do that. This painting goes fast because there isn't a lot of fussing. And if you're fussing, you're doing it wrong. No fussing. No fuss, no muss. Okay. I'm just going to tape this here. Tape it onto my example board. And now I do need some white. I have white. Even if your white's dirty, don't worry about it. Does this fence look like a perfectly white fence? No, it's got stuff going on behind it. Okay. So, but I do need more white just because I hardly have any on here. I need some more white, and I need a little bit of black. Because I want to sort of bring, and again, I usually don't use a lot of black, but I want to bring in a little bit of black because the post is black, and then there's some black in the trees. So I do, and in the trail. So I am bringing a little bit of black into the fence, just to kind of give it some balance, but you don't need a lot. Very little. So I have very little black on my palette here. I might need to add more because I'm doing examples for you. And now I've got my trail. So I've got my trail. Okay. Now the fence, I'm going to do it in paint. The fence, I'm going to do it in paint right now. So everybody's watching me. You should be finished all this because you're not fussing, right? I know sometimes people say I rush you, but you should be finished. And I'm pretty sure on YouTube you can pause a live stream. I'm pretty sure. But you shouldn't have to, because again, we're not fussing. So we're just getting some background paint on there. Really nice. That's it. That's all. Not a lot. Okay. So now now we don't have to go right to the end here. So I'm going to let the fence disappear around here as it's going around the curve. It does not need to follow around the curve because maybe it's fencing off something different. So all we're going to do, this is so simple. Okay, you are quite literally, I'm going to show you with a big brush. You're quite literally going to stamp at the end. See, my brush is perpendicular, 90 degrees, more math, 90 degrees from the painting, and I'm using my small 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch, and see, I'm going to give myself the first line, okay, and I'm stamping. So 1, 2, 3. I'm not doing a brush stroke. I want this uneven. I'm dipping again. Okay, and see, I'm just tapping and I'm letting that disappear. And so then I want it to be, so I give myself the first guideline and I'm stamping and I see how it's uneven. I don't want a perfect line because we have fence posts and it's rickety and everything else. But it's just easier if you kind of go into a bit of a line. And then about 1 inch or 1.5 inches down here. And it disappears. We're going to let it disappear into that foliage. Okay. And then we're going to do another one in between. So again, we have this in between kind of like you can barely see them and it's going to all disappear in here. Then we might have a post here. Sometimes the post is a little bit thicker. So straight on, and we can pull down with a little bit of pressure. See how the post is a bit thicker? And then like here, we have a post. And then very little, we're just going to tap in a little post over here because it's getting smaller. They get closer together as well, but you don't worry about that because we're not going to see. So the posts get closer together and they get a lot smaller. And like see, and crooked, it could be a crooked old fence. Then what we're going to do is take a little black. The side that's facing away from the light, we're going to put a little bit of black in. But these aren't going to look so perfect white because we're going to picking up other paint colors here. This is an old white fence. Nobody decided to give it a big paint job. Just going to put a little black in there and then a little bit of black in here because it's not a fresh paint job. It's been kind of lost in the foliage, and see, you just don't want it looking perfectly white. So that's it. That's all. Easy peasy. Easy peasy. Easy peasy. All right. So stamping straight on, below the horizon. Remember, we do have a horizon here. Okay, below the horizon, about over here, maybe halfway through between the land and between the foreground and the horizon. And I'm moving my brush down out of the way so you can see it. So you can see without my hand there, but you're going straight on. Okay, you're just letting the paint fall off. If you were to do a brush stroke, you would lose that brush stroke because you're picking up all the background color. It wouldn't be white. So we're just tapping in and we're almost we want to get this crooked. See how it's going a lot more crooked, which is nice. We're getting different tapping in and less tapping, barely any pressure as I get close to it disappearing. I want it disappearing. Okay, now I'm going to go about 1 inch, 1.5 inches down here, start up and go up to meet that guy. Dipping again. I'm going to dip again. See, I'm just the bristles. I'm not bending my brush. See, it's just then in between. And let it kind of all disappear in there. Just let it disappear. it will. Okay, and if your brush is too white, then just add a little black in there. So you could take the little black and just touch it there, and it'll disappear. Okay, so posts, I'm going to have a nice post here. I'm going to add a bit more pressure. So I can sort of do a brush stroke with adding pressure, but I'm kind of wiggling my brush because I'm picking up the bottom. And as we go, I have less. I want this. That was too close, so I'm probably going to have a birch tree there anyway. So again, you don't have to worry about your fence because we're going to have a birch tree in front, getting some black on there just to kind of accentuate the birch. Don't fuss. No fussing, no fussing, no mussing. And this is just the idea of a fence. Okay, just the idea of a fence. Barely any concept, just a concept of a fence. Okay, simple. Overworking gets you in trouble. Okay, now the birch tree, what we're going to end up doing is picking up the color from underneath. Okay, so beware and pay attention. Okay, so we're going to do one brush stroke up to literally, it's almost like we're going to take off the paint. Okay, so make sure you know where you want your birch trees because we are going to be removing some of this paint. Okay, so I want one birch tree, so I'm going to show you here. Just going to show you here. Everybody watch. So just as the curve starts to go back around, I'm going to have one birch tree about the width of this brush and it's almost really close to that. And then I'm going up and I'm going to let it kind of disappear because it's going into two branches. Okay. Then this birch is going to be a bit wider. I'm picking up white. This isn't very white, I know, because I've got black on my brush. Don't worry. Okay, now this one's going to be a little bit further away, and it's because it's closer, it's going to be a little bit wider. And I'm going to let it disappear because I don't want it wide up there, so it's going to be a little bit wider. And there we go. So I'm widening in that taper. And I'm just letting it disappear up top for now. That's what I'm going to do. And we're all going to do this together now. What's going to happen? We just want to make sure that we know where we're going because we're going to take away paint first. And you're going to need some paper towel. Don't wash your brush. That's the worst thing you can do is have a wet brush. The absolute worst thing, because you're going to stretch the paint. You're going to stretch the pigment. Okay. So I'm turning this a little bit on its side so you can see. Okay. So I've got some white on there. It's not going to be white for long. Remember, I want my first one here as it curves. So I'm going to give myself a guideline so I know where I'm going. Birch trees go fairly straight. And I'm going to go up to here. Okay. I'm going to go up to there and from there to there. Okay. I've got a white patch there and a white patch there. And then this one's going to be a little bit lower. I'm still going to leave room for my pumpkin so it's a bit bigger from there, and it might go a bit higher. In the foreground, it will go bigger to narrow, just like we had everything go narrow. And with this brush, I'm literally going to carve a path for my white, especially when you've got thick paint like this and it's dark. Okay. So I don't need to put any more paint on my brush at all. And this is also why I'm keeping it dry because I'm going from there, from my guideline, up, straight up, and I'm letting it kind of fall off. See, And I've picked up all of that color, and I'm going to take that off onto the paper towel. Okay, so I have paper towel handy. See how I've carved a path? It's like literally carved a path because I can see like a little edges that have lots of paint on there. Literal carving a path in that paint, okay? With this nice dry brush. See, I can just go one time up, and I'm just letting it taper near the top. I don't need to take off much on the top. And you see, I just need, and it just comes off. And I'm getting a lot of gray browns. That's all right. Same thing here, right to that guideline up here. And notice I'm putting a lot of pressure on my brush because I'm digging. I always tell you guys don't dig down. This is the reason why. So we're digging to show you the reason why. Is because we're going to get all those colors underneath. And I just take that off. You can actually do this kind of technique with watercolors where you remove some of the pigment with water, but we're actually not removing pigment. We're removing the bulk of the paint. Okay? The one fell swoop. I'm going to go a little bit wider here and let that taper in. There we go. Easy peasy. Rhonda, I would like the idea of $1 million. Yes, just the idea. I would like that in real life. Okay, now I'm going to take that paint off. You don't have to wash it, wet it. You don't have to pull the bristles out. You could just give it a pinch. It's hard. See, if I just pinched it gently, hardly any pigment's coming off. And we don't want these birches perfectly white. That's a misnomer. Birches are not perfectly white. Okay, and especially in the evening. But because we're going to add, surprisingly, we're going to add some shadows in there too. And white, the white of the white bark kind of picks up the other colors around it as well. So it almost glows with the other colors. So now what we're going to do is kind of lay the white on here. Okay, so no pressure this time. Okay, so I'm going to start kind of, you don't have to have it white near the base because we're going to have other leaves on there. So I'm going to show you. So now I'm doing the same motion, but just no pressure on my brush. And I might go beside it because it's not going to go as wide because I have no pressure on my brush. So I'm just going to go right beside it, and I'm picking up more paint, letting the paint fall off my brush. Okay. And I'm picking up more paint and just kind of now I'm layering it back on. This is like icing a cake. You don't want to get the crumb coat. Okay. If you pick up other colors, that's fine. And then put some more down here on there. We're going to get a nice coat. See, I'm just laying my brush on there and just like icing a cake. Okay. If you've got to water your paint, this doesn't work as well, but it can still work. And again, we're not looking for that perfect white. Mine might, like this is titanium white, so it is really going, and it's a heavy paint, so it's really going white. I'm just going to get some more on there. Don't try to pull what's on there. See, if I pull what's on there, I'm just going to get that undercolor. Okay, you need to pick up more paint. More paint. It's really nice to use this with a palette knife when you're doing birch trees because you get that nice heavy coat of paint on there. Now what I'm going to do is give it some life. I am going to fork out some nice branches here with the white, and I'm turning my brush the thin way. Fork out, and you're not going to see all of the branches because there's a lot of foliage in front. And I'm just pulling that up. See, I got some reddish color in there. That's okay. because it's just, you're going to have, you can put some leaves on top of that and everything. So you don't see as many of the leaves. And I'm just going to bring that narrowly upward. Okay. And you don't see as many of the leaves or as many of the branch part as you get up higher into the tree because there's a lot of foliage in there. So we might only see a few of those branches. I can just kind of use my brush the thin way and kind of pull some down, picking up more paint all the time. And I'm just, see, I'm almost slicing with my brush like that, like the thin way, kind of like just kind of instead of the fat way. Instead of doing that, I'm just kind of like almost using it like a palette knife. And I have lots of paint on there, lots and lots and lots of paint, nice and goopy. And then I'm going to just get a little branch up here, maybe a little branch up there. Again, not too much. And they just do Ys. They do not cross like Ts. Okay. Leaving this down here. This is nice and shadowy. It does not have to be that perfect white. And again, they are not perfect white. Then there is a black shadow. There's a bit of a black shadow away from the light. This is where the light's coming from and the lantern. So a bit of a black shadow, tiny bit of black, the thin way on this side of the birch, just kind of doing an up and down brush stroke with a little bit of that black. Not too much, not too much, just a little shadow going about halfway into the birch trunk. Okay. Giving it a little bit of life. And then what we want to do is take off some of that white. We can use some of that white for our pathway. So we don't have to take it off here because we can use some, because we want a dirty white on the pathway, a dirty gray. We can just tap on there so we don't waste any paint. Don't waste not, want not. It's all going to be there anyway. So we don't need to wipe it off. Then we're going to take straight up black. Now the black of the markings on the tree are not just dots. Sometimes, and they're not, so what I don't want you to do, so don't do this. I'm going to do this. Don't do that. I don't want to see like that. Don't do that. So sometimes they have like, it's almost like a rim that's going from the outside because it's coming around the other side. And I'm just tapping. Sometimes there's like a tap in the center. That looks more natural than this Dalmatian going down the center. Okay. And sometimes they can go up and down a little bit. And there's more of them the lower down the tree trunk you are. And of course, if you want them, they do wrap around. So you might just see a bit on the edge. Okay. That looks more natural than having them coming like straight down the center like that. That's just not natural at all. Okay. So straight up black, and they're not 100% straight up black, which you won't get anyway. Over here, and then I'm going to turn my brush up and down and just go along the side. And then as you touch, sometimes they're a bit faded. They're not 100% black. So you just touch a little bit. We're going to have leaves and stuff at the bottom of the trunk, so don't worry about that. They go right up over the shadows. Sometimes you'll just get a tiny nick of black. Okay? So less as you go up into the smaller branches. You might see a little bit, but we are going to have leaves over top of that anyway. Okay? And then you might see you might see a big patch of one. So these all look different. They all look different. They're not the same. They're not like just little dots. Like sometimes it can be a series of dots going across. It'll look like. Sometimes it looks like an up and down thingamabob. And everything's going to look amazing because it'll all come out looking like a birch tree in the end. Dalmatian tree. There we go. And nicey. And then we can clean off our, and especially darker near the back and the tiniest bit of dark black, the very, very, very back, darker near the back. I just kind of barely touched my brush there. We can do the trail. But you see, you don't want too much white back there because there's more white back here where the light is. The light doesn't go back there. The light is here on the trail. So you see, I'm just going to muck that up again. So I'm just dabbing. I'm not finishing my trail because I like to pick up my thing here. Right up in, I'm just emptying my brush is what I'm doing. Okay, right up to there. I'm not finished yet. Okay, so I want to keep this empty so I don't get my fingers all covered in black. All right, now. Now what am I doing? Well, we're doing the post. So now we're going to do the post, and I need more black. Usually I don't say that. Usually I don't need more black, but I need more black right now. Because black is the absence of light or a chemical reaction, which the paint on the post would be. Okay. So I want to get rid of that dark on there. Okay. So get your brush. We're just going to put a white spot here, and I want it nice and white. Okay. A white spot here first before we get any of the other colors on, be it any of the black, like straight up black on there. I did empty my brush, but I want to empty it again. Just want to empty that again. And I'm going to just give it a pinch. I don't need to pull the bristles out. I give it a pinch and see there's hardly any pigment there. Okay. And just need a little bit more white. And I'm going to do the lantern. It goes above the horizon. So it starts here and comes here. So it might go in that tree. It might go above in front of this, in front of the back of our trail. We might not see exactly the back of the trail, but we want it nicely right here. So we want it to go above the horizon and then just at the bottom of our pathway, lighting up our pathway. That's where we're going to have a lot more white in our pathway. So what I want to do is get this part, because I mean, a little bit of that color underneath picking up is fine. So I just want to get like a triangle. So I'm going to pick up with my brush. See, one side has no paint on it. One side is completely covered in paint. And I'm going to put that right here. Right here. So I'm going to show you. Never mind that. And I'm just going to do that. Okay, it doesn't have to be a perfect triangle because we're going to outline it in black, or a perfect rectangle. That's what I mean. Just roughly. So you see I had my brush really loaded. I touched it and then gave it a gentle drag down. The paint is sitting on top. I can't see any of the blue of the paper, of my scrap paper underneath because I didn't dig down. And all of this paint is settling down. Okay. So I'm going to pick up more paint, scoop it, lots of paint on that side of my brush, and I'm literally going to lay it down like you would an icing knife and give it a pull. So don't try to do this. It's not going to work because you're putting pressure. This way, flat is going to not put pressure. Okay, I know the brush bends. So right here is where I want the glass and the light part. And I'm just going to just gently drag down, and that's it. That's the lantern part. Okay, so simple. Now I've got lots of white on here. I really like white will kill black as well. Okay, so I want to get rid of, and closer down here, I want more white on my path. So I'm just going to get rid of that white. I'm just tapping that off, and that's fine. That's all I need to do. I just want it going from dark to light, where the light is coming. Then I'm going to show you here. That was just one brush stroke. I did two in that time. Then I'm going to show you here how we're going to do the lamppost. I'm going to just touch the end of all bristles. All bristles are coated in the black. Then I'm going to stamp the outline, like see a stamp, stamp, and or just pull down along the side. But the thing is, I'm going to pick up white. I don't want white because this is like wrought iron. So just tap that off on your paper towel if you pick up white. So thin way, and I'm bordering the white. Okay, a thin way, I'm bordering the white, giving that, and dip again. And I just framing the white light, giving it a bit of a frame. Now this isn't 100% perfect white light. We are going to put a little yellow in there. Okay, because like sometimes you'll see the bulb of the lantern, and if you get a little black or if it picks up other color underneath, that's okay. Then what we're going to do is give it a little hat. We're going to give it a little triangular hat to make it look pretty. And we could bring it out that way more. And we could even give it a little doodad up top. There, give it a little doodad. And we could bring it down into a triangle. Okay. And then we're going to bring, with our brush the thin way, we're going to bring this down straight on right to here. However, then we need to taper, and then we want to build a platform. You can make whatever platform you want, just a platform. It can go triangular near the top, but then also we need to pull this out because this, we need to, like, because it's heavy, we need to be able to support it. So it can be thin near the top, but then it needs to go out. And then sometimes you'll get a little crossbar here. Maybe it's going to be with the street signs. Maybe there's a public notice at the cross section of our pathway. So nice, and we're getting our nice frame. We're just using black. Dip, straight down, dip, straight down, dip, straight across the thin way, dip, straight across. This is old wrought iron, so it can be thicker. Okay, then we have our little hat, and then it can go out more. Maybe it's going to get protected from the elements a little bit. The hat can go out more. Might have a little doodad on top because it's pretty. And then we're going to go straight down here, and we're going to have nice platform. You're going to collect the other colors, and then of course make tapering it up into that. And then maybe our little crossbar underneath, going the thin way, and using just the dots of our corner of our brush to put some nice little dots on there. We got a nice little doodads going on. Then we empty our brush in the pathway. I'm going to leave that corner for the last because I don't want to get too much stuff on there. Okay. Now, what we want to do we could clean this, like, I hate to say it, but you could get another brush, which is what I would probably do. I would get another brush, but if you only have one brush, you can give it a little bit of a rinse, like to get that black off. But I don't know. You got to get it dry again. That's the thing. That's why I don't. And so I'm just going to give it a pinch. I'm going to pinch off that color, pinch off the black. And you see, hardly any is coming off. Hardly any is coming off. Okay, because I'm going to do the pumpkins and I'm going to use yellow. So yellow is really sensitive to black, but I also want to get a little, like a hint of yellow into my lantern. And I don't want this perfect white like that either. Okay, so I'm looking for, it's an old lantern. It's just the glass, right? And I'm grabbing some more yellow. I told you guys you'd need more yellow. So I'm grabbing the glass and I'm going to use the corner of my brush. I might collect a little, that's why I hate to wash the brush, because I might collect a little bit of that grayish color in the yellow, which is what I want. I want it to look like an antique color. So I'm going to sort of touch the yellow in there. And I want a dirty sort of yellow. I'm looking to kind of muck that up a bit. So it's not this perfect white. And I have a little bit more yellow. And see, oops, I stuck my finger right in that black, even though I said I didn't want to do that. So you see, it's just like, so it's sort of mucking up a bit. The glow in the dark paint, so it's not perfectly white. Okay, the glow in the dark paint was kind of made it yellowy, which is nice. Then I'm going to go back with a little hint of black and just kind of fix that little bit. And just that hint of black. I'm always reticent to say, wash your brush and clean it, because we want it a little bit dirty. There's times when I want it a little dirty, and then somebody will, when I'm doing a group, and they'll be like, oh, I washed it. It's not dirty. It's like, well, then dirty it up. And here we go. So you see, it's not perfect. It's kind of a little bit mucky. Maybe somebody came along and did a little paint job on the wrought iron, but didn't do a great job. Because it's, it's kind of weathered. You want it to look weathered. It's on a trail. You can take a little bit of that whitish color and put a little reflection on maybe the little post, and maybe also a little bit around on that little platform. Maybe it's got a little bit of white reflecting from the lamp part on there. And so everything reflects stuff. Okay. Now we're going to do these pumpkins. Cleaning this off. Just see, hardly any pigment's coming off. And you see, I had a hard time getting that dirty, even though I had black on my brush already. What I'm going to do, pumpkins are gourds. So they're all shaped funny and different. Okay, picking out the perfect pumpkin is like crazy. And you want it to look awkward, lots of awkwardness. So what we're going to do is use yellow first. And we're like icing a cake. We're going to do that. Okay, we're going to pick up. See, I've got no paint on the other side. I've got paint on that side. All bristles, the whole side is engaged. And I'm going to sort of put it near. I'm just going to do one example first. You see, I just kind of smeared it in a pumpkin shape. I did not do this, because if I do this, I'm digging down. Look, that's not good, right? Okay, and I'm using yellow. Then what I'm going to do is take a little bit of my reddish color and kind of, now my red is thickening up here a bit. I don't want it quite that thick. So I'm just going to sort of muck about with I just want a little bit. And because red is much darker than yellow, it's going to go into an orange pumpkin pretty quickly with just a little bit of red on there. And I'm just going to gently go right to the edge, and you're going to start to pull down from like the stem. The stem, pull down, pull down. We don't have a stem yet. And there we go. And it's going to look more natural when we get it on there because we've got all those other colors underneath, giving it some nice shadow. Because we want more shadow, we want it darker underneath. You see how you're getting all these beautiful tones of orange rather than just straight up a flat orange going on there. Okay. So really close, and because they're big, because they're right in the foreground. If something's right here, it's in the foreground. Okay, so I'm going to do two. I don't care that I've got a little red on there. And I am going to lower this down, and I'm going to bring this close. Okay, so I want one here and one here. I've got my guidelines, blobs of paint. Getting more paint, and this one's going to be a bit smaller. There we go, nice smear. This one's a bit bigger, but get more paint, lots of paint. Let it kind of sit on top. See if I dig down, but there is some green in the pumpkin too, like when you get some of that. Then I'm going to take my red. I'm going to start, see I've got some red there, and I can sort of start to pull down the way the lobe of the pumpkin goes. And I'm going to get these streaks, pumpkin-like streaks, right to the edge of that yellow. You don't want to see the yellow edge right there. And if you lose some yellow, pick up some more yellow and put that on. But you see you're getting those streakies like the lobes of the pumpkin. Like the way it streaks in there. And if you've got too much of a yellow edge, just barely touch it with the paintbrush and it'll come off. And the stems are going to be, see now I just wiped off some of my yellow. It's a messy yellow there. I'm going to take some of my blue and just kind of muck that up some more and just glob on the stems. Just glob that on, and I'm going to get more. And I'm just literally like kind of like approaching it like that and globbing on a stem right in there. I'm going to take a little bit of white. Dirty white is even better. And put a little bit of white on that stem. And a little bit of white, dirty white is better on the edge of that pumpkin. Okay. And I can empty my brush down here. Doesn't matter. And then, because I want some shadow under that pumpkin, so I can actually take that messy part where I mucked up the blue, okay? Bella R says that was magic. She just did the yellow pumpkin, turning it orange all over. Yes, I am magic. I'm a witch. And so we want a bit of shadow under the pumpkin. So we're just going to kind of like that, whatever we mucked up for our stem, we're just going to kind of pull up a little, and we can dig down a little because we have all those shadow colors underneath. Okay. So easy, easy peasy. Now what we want to do is now kind of finish off our pathway. So I can empty whatever I've got here on the pathway, and because everything goes in itself, everything goes on the pathway. A little bit of black, and so I want to see more sort of differences, black and white here in the corner. I'm going to pick this up here. I can finish off the pathway. And don't forget, I'm going to come up here again, but I just want to finish off the pathway because I want to get those leaves on the birch. So just want to finish that pathway and just want to finish the low down part before I go up high again because I just sat down. And just get some white on there. And not too much white as we go back along the pathway. Okay, sort of going from like, because the lantern's not, the light's not reaching there. Even though this lantern is close to that path, inch-wise, it's not, because that's really far back. Okay, it's really, really, really far back. So we have, that was 2. I just stuck some white there and I did not want to. There we go. And the pathway messes with the rest of it. Okay. And so now I've got a little bit of white on here, which is great. I do want to bring in some leaves in front of the birch down below. So I am just going to remove some of this. I've got too much white on my brush because I'm a big gobber of white. Just want to remove some. And I'm going to take a little bit of red and a little bit of yellow, and just get some of that red and yellow on top, over top of the stem of the birch, over here to the right of the pumpkin, and over top here. I'm just kind of flipping my brush around. See, I'm just flipping. I'm getting smaller bits. Some of it might look more yellow and some of it might not. And I'm picking up some more yellow and red. I don't know which one I did first. And I'm going to get some of those leaves in front of that pumpkin. And I might take a little bit of white because I know it's in front of that pumpkin. So it has a little bit of white. And because it's kind of catching the light from here, and a little bit more kind of light leaves close up here, because we're seeing, maybe we had a flashlight too on our little trip to the pumpkin patch. We were just leaving. These pumpkins just kind of moved over. And just in front of those birches, now I've got this little bit of white on my brush. Not too much. As I come up, typically the birch tree is, when its leaves turn, it's more yellow orange as opposed to red. So we've already got red in the background. So what I'm going to do now is just kind of cover near the top. We don't have a lot of leaves down here. And it's not like, so you're going to go over top of the stem, like the trunk a little bit. Here, you don't see all of the branches, and we've already got some reds on there. So we're going to probably pick up some red with our yellow. So we're going to just get some right up near the top. We've had a chance to let that paint settle, so it will look a little brighter near the top canopy, right at the very, very, very top. And right over top of some of those stems. I keep calling trunks stems. I don't know why. I know they're trunks. Bear with me. I'm going to get a bit more yellow, as I said I would. I think I've filled up my yellow about 3 times. Corner of the small brush. If you're not picking up enough orange, every once in a while dip in the tiniest bit of red, but very little. The birch tends toward bright, like more yellow, almost sometimes a brown yellow, but brown, yellowy orange. So, and it can go a tiny bit maybe, because these birches are closer in the foreground, they might even be catching some of the light from our lantern. So, and you might be picking up some of the white from your trunk. So it'll make the yellow brighter, which is good. And you can't even see our stems up there. That's why I said don't worry about those. See, you can't see them at all. like where I said don't worry about up there. And what I want to do too, and this takes on a different shape than what our background foliage was. That background foliage is different. Okay, and nice bright, still bright yellow. And this yellow will fade. It will fade a little because it is acrylic. So don't worry about that. And I might have maybe a little bit of brighter yellow tints in here. And they're smaller because this is a smaller brush. Maybe this branch, maybe this is like a different tree that's kind of behind, right behind the thingamabob. Not like these, which are way far back. Maybe it originates down here. So we get like maybe a little bit brighter yellow going on here. Very little. I'm barely touching my canvas. Might even take a little hint of white. I don't really want to see the white. I just want the white to brighten the yellow a little. No white down here because it's kind of fading into that background. Everything gets faded into the background as we go low. What you could do is if it's too bright back there, you could go more blue, but you don't need to. And see, I've got different varying heights of different dark and light colors. It's not a row and a row and a row, you know. And I could have maybe a little patch of kind of bright yellow near, like kind of at the base where this is kind of glowing a little, barely touching again, barely touching. And you could end up with some, like, of course, you have leaves on the pathway too. So don't have your pathway, I don't want to see a perfect pathway. You could have, like, muck it up with some color, a little bit of color on there too, with what's left over on your brush. Maybe some leaves fell there. And further back, you can kind of muck up the edge if you had too fine an edge. But it does go grayer back there. Here you see, closer up, you see differences. You see differences of the grays. Back here, it's more subdued gray. And that's it. And I love these wacky pumpkins because I just love the way they are. Like, see here, my pumpkins are wacky, and you know, they're just here. They're just all even more wacky. I think I might have used an actual orange on that one, but I prefer to use the yellow and then this one. Since I started using just primary colors, I prefer to do it this way. And I find they look very gourd-like because there's so many different colors in one pumpkin. And also trying not to make these perfect pumpkins makes them even more perfect. Practically perfect pumpkins in every way. And she even a haircut 2 bits, and it's 8:03. And that was an hour and a half. As I always say, it's an hour and a half. Bella always says I go too fast, but that's when she's painting with Christina at her house. And then they just talk the whole time. And she's, you go too fast on the internet. I'm like, well, you're probably just talking to Christina. Right, Bella? I know you guys so well. And I'm going to save my paint because I've got a lot of mocked up yellow. I'm going to save that in my paint pot here, which is and it'll go into like a Payne's gray. And yeah. Just, you cannot add white or black because white and black dilutes your pigment because they are not color. White is light and black is the absence of light. So if you want to, you can save your black and white in another container. Like you could do it in a container like this and just do black on one side and white on the other side. And because so often I'm not using perfect white either. Just don't mix them. Then, like, you're not using perfect white. Just splash a little water on them. If they mix, that's fine. But, you can tell I'm not using just a flat white on this. So it's fine. You have all kinds of uses for these leftover paints, but just make sure to put water on them first. You could even use like a Tupperware container or a sour cream container. It's totally going to work. Just remember to put water on them because they do dry out. Acrylics are water based. They are not water resistant when dry. They are not water soluble when dry. They are water resistant. That dry one, I could splash water on it. It's got a polymer in it. So a polymer is like a plastic. So that's why acrylics are fairly new on the art scene, like as considering oils, which are centuries and centuries and millions of years old, oils and things like that. But acrylics are not that old comparatively. Oh, I just threw a dirty paper towel on my drop on my drop sheet. It landed on my drop sheet, so that's okay. I like to fuss, Bella says. Don't we all? Rhonda, you like to fuss too. And the people start fussing when they're just doing the background, and I'm like, and they're saying, well, I'm fixing it. And I'm like, well, what are you fixing? Because you don't know what it's going to look like in the end. So how can you fix something when you don't know what it's going to look like? You really don't. So I always try to get that across to people, like, oh, I got to fix that. I got to fix that. Well, how do you know you got to fix it? Wait till the end. Oh, yelling at you guys. Wait till the end, and then oh, because you might cover that, whatever it was that was driving you crazy, whatever it was. So don't forget to send me a picture. Put it on my post. I put a post on a reminder. Oh, glad my voice stayed till the end. I tend to get yeah, glad I stayed till the end. So post your pictures up under the reminder. Oh, God, I gotta tickle the reminder that I gave you. And I'll sign off now that I lost my voice. I'm fine. It's just a tickle. It's just from yelling at you guys. Yeah, so. Yeah, see you Friday, Bella.